You know, Switzerland is the most talked about country in Nepal.
For divorce.
For good reason. Having a business degree doesn't do shit.
Two notions on this. The first one is the hard knowledge, like what's actually been taught at university, and the other one is this, that's probably the most valuable part from a business school. Can you get that online? 100%.
So what do you suggest for the people who want to get into investing?
I think that if you're completely new to the investing world, I think read the books first. You have to be in a market where everybody's against you. I think that's probably the hardest questions you ask today. I mean, the reason why I have so many.
I mean, what would you do differently if you were, let's say, 20 years again?
I would probably buy Bitcoin a lot more.
So what do you think the future of AI in the next 3 to 5 years?
I think we can't predict the future. I think it's not really about minimizing the work. It's maximizing the time I spend on the things I enjoy doing.
Which place you recommend? Like,
I was just going to say, don't go to Interlaken.
Hey guys, welcome to Sushpr, a podcast where we dive into those minds shaping the future. Today I'm super excited to sit down with someone who is not only deep into IT, artificial intelligence and crypto, but also an entrepreneur, educator and content creator. And he is from one of the most beautiful countries called Switzerland, and we will be covering various topics today. So, welcome, introduce yourself.
Sure. So my name is Cyril. I'm from Switzerland, yes. So happy to be on your podcast today. We'll be breaking down a little bit the notions on investing, finance, and really be segueing into AI today. So
I want to start with you growing up in Switzerland. It's one of the most, beautiful country that I know. So tell us a bit of your life growing up in Switzerland.
Sure, yeah, let's maybe start right at the beginning. So Switzerland, I think many of you in the audience, you maybe just know from mountains, lakes, but I think it has a lot more to offer as well culturally. I don't know if have you been there? I think not yet.
I really wanted to go there. It's been like a couple of years. Always I plan and then I plan and cancel. Maybe this year will be the year I'll be in Switzerland. Yeah.
I think I have the same with your country, Nepal. Every year I'm trying to go there.
I mean, basically Nepal is like pretty much similar landscape to Switzerland, but 100 years behind, I would say.
Yeah, probably. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's like this industrial revolution that each and every single country can go through. But yeah, moving back to my childhood. So I grew up in a city where it's multilingual. Uh-huh. So I think we have that in common. I think you speak 5 languages. I speak also a few. I try to prepare the languages I speak to be introducing myself today, but that's a bit hard. But posso falar português, je peux parler français, ich spreche Deutsch, Schweizerdeutsch geht auch. Yo puedo hablar español. All these different languages, I think that's the city I grew up in. Again, 2 different languages, 2 different cultures. It's called Biel. It's also the city of watches. So in Switzerland, probably the second.
What's the city called?
It's called Biel. So it has like the German notion is Biel. So the German way of pronouncing it is Biel. And Bien is just the French part.
Is it more closer to Germany or French side?
So it's actually directly in the middle of Switzerland. So there's it's actually splitting the part from the French part to the German part. So it's this like frontier. We even have some saying in Switzerland, Röstigraben, basically the division of the French and the German part. And well, growing up in the city, just again, it's this early exposure on different languages, something I think just helped me a lot. Also in today's world in business, just to be addressing people on their mother tongue as much as I possibly can. And yeah, again, as I mentioned, it's the city of watches. So many of my friends, even nowadays, they either work in the watch industry or they have worked in the watch industry. The notable names that are being produced there is like Rolex, Omega, Audemars Piguet, like although some people just call it AP nowadays. But
so the city is mostly popular for watches and what else? It's
really, really mostly popular for watches, and they have a lake. But I would say mostly popular for watches.
The nature is part of Switzerland. Yeah, I'm with you. But you mentioned you speak several different languages, and you. But how did that happen? You learn at the school, or because the city was so multicultural, you had to blend into it? How did it happen?
Well, actually, in Switzerland, so the educational system is really enabling you to the best possible way of actually speaking many different languages at the same time. So you go into school, it starts with German, continues with French in 3rd grade, 5th grade, you have English. And being in Biel, that's a bit a different notion there. Yes, as you mentioned perfectly, you're really exposed to, 50% or 40%-ish of French-speaking individuals. So you do have to to basically speaking French, to addressing them. But it's a mix between the school probably and my day-to-day. In my very, very first job, which we can talk a little bit later on as well, of course it was 50% French. So all the time you have to switch between different languages.
Is it like confusing sometimes switching from one language to another?
Well, as I try to display now, so it's sometimes easier, sometimes it's less easy. I think simply because French, Portuguese, Spanish are so close to each other, so especially these languages are difficult to interrelate sometimes. If I try to speak French, some Spanish word pops out.
Yeah, exactly. That happened to me a couple of times as well. Right? And talking about the languages, I grew up learning English since I was little, but I was not able to speak I studied English for like 12 years, but I could not communicate in English. So I realized like language is more, practice than just reading and writing. So since I left Nepal, I went to Scotland and then I moved to England, and I realized my English is shit. Nobody understood me. Then I realized, okay, language is more, outspoken. You practice. The more you practice, the more better you get it. So in your case, so you also learn in the school, but for you, it helped you because of the community. Like you have to switch into different language with the different groups or community. I think
it's a good question. I mean, at the end of the day, yes, I think the exposure to the language, even to an extent that it's necessary for you to speak, really helps to accelerate the learning curve. In my case, early, it was the exposure to French basically, because the city was half French. But then subsequently English, I studied in Canada. So over there, as maybe you, I mostly had theoretical English, went to Canada, and again, it became a necessity.
Yeah.
And I really replicated this pattern everywhere I went. I just came with little knowledge. So I used Duolingo. I think most of you in the audience, Duolingo, like the language learning application. I was trying to just get some basics in on Spanish, on Portuguese, and then I moved to these countries for some months, and I just went deep and acquired the language by learning and exposure.
You mentioned you studied in Canada. When was it? In your higher education or during your school time?
It was my bachelor's degree. So in 2016, I went to Calgary, Canada, which is a phenomenal place. Again, very similar to probably Switzerland. It has a lot of mountains. But it really, when I was a kid, I always had this dream of studying in a university that had, these like parties with the red cups.
Okay. Yeah. I've seen in the movies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everybody of us, I think we saw in these movies. So for me, this was always like a dream to achieve from Europe, going to the States or to Canada. So either one of these two countries. And that's really, I think, even at the end of the day, why I chose this university. I looked up the exchange possibilities where I could possibly be going. So Australia was on the list, Texas, I think, and Tennessee, or then Calgary, Alberta, and in Canada. So I chose that. So that was cool. That was like another one of these bucket lists, I think, early days of my university.
Well, where you did most of your study in Switzerland?
I did, yeah. In Switzerland, it's like very common. You can do like a university while working. So maybe just to wrap a little bit again from my earlier days. In Switzerland, you usually have the two possible options. You either go directly to uni, so you don't really work. So it's mostly theoretical, although maybe some people in the audience would say, we disagree, it's also practical, but at the end of the day, it's just theory, you don't really work. And at the end of the day, the other option is that, you go to uni while you can work. So I chose that option, which enabled me to earn money. And then I basically reinvested that money in my education again, and basically did a part of my bachelor's degree in Canada.
Okay, interesting. I want to bring you back to your childhood, because I'm interesting to know. I grew up in Nepal, which is a bit of a similar landscape as Switzerland, but completely different. And we grew up in a mud, playing with the dirts and stuff. So I wonder, how is it like growing up in a Switzerland, like as a little kid?
I think very, very similar probably. I mean, this was pre-smartphone days, right? So I think we have the luxury, you and myself, being the same age, that we grew up completely without the electronic influence of smartphones, iPhones, Android phones, whatever, you name it. So I think it was very analog. So we went out at the end of the day. I mean, I was growing up actually not in Biel itself, in the city.
Yeah.
I grew up in a close by village, like 10 kilometers away. So super rural. But at the end of the day, back then it was like mostly just going in nature. And
is it like surrounded by farms, or is not typically?
pretty much is. So actually, most of my Swiss friends, they make fun of me that I grew up in a place where it has like tractors. And like, but that's really where I'm from. But at the end of the day, if I could choose the same thing again, I think I would again go the same learning path. But yeah, to your question, going out every day, meeting my friends, very social life, no smartphones, maybe some Game Boys, but that's it.
Imagine if I want to have a child, and I want to have a child in Switzerland. Would that be different than what you grew up with, or it's gonna be similar?
I think it's in a completely different time, right? So currently, I think we live in this revolution of AI. Maybe we can talk about it a little bit later, but yeah, I think it's completely different. I mean, we grew up without technology. We grew up without infinite access to the internet. Just be in the present, as opposed to if you were a child today, I think you're growing up into this infinite knowledge pool of AI. You have smartphones 24/7, and most probably of your interactions. I don't know if you encounter that as well, but if I go back home, like visiting my family, which they're still living in this area, you hardly see anybody on the streets. Like no kids on the streets. Well, in our days, it was just filled with kids, and everybody was going out.
Yeah, you see a lot of memes like back in the days, parents were, calling their kids home from the street. Now they're kicking them out because they're too much in the video games.
Exactly. So you need to leave the home, as opposed to when we were kids. I remember these days when like my parents were looking for me at like 10:30 and I was supposed to be at home at like 10. I just don't know if that actually is happening. To answer your question, I don't even know. Probably not.
I mean, my mom used to go after me with the stick.
Oh yeah.
I was going out playing with my friends. Sometimes I go to swim in the river because we have a river flowing from the mountain, which is really nice. I wanted to swim there every time, and my mom is getting scared because a lot of time river, just the float take people away and they die. So my mom didn't want me to go in the river, but I was always sneaking out. Sometimes, I would lock the main door from my room, and I jump out of the window.
Oh, really?
My mom think I'm studying inside, but I'm jumping out of the window to go to swim. And now I think a lot of my friends, they have kids. They already have kids grown up, like 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. And they have to like force them to go out and play,
So actually, because I think that the pull is more towards technology as opposed to actually going to nature, which is, as I said, if I could choose which area to grow up with, I think I would still choose we both grew up in the 90s, 95. 95, I was 2 years old, but like 98, 2000s, I think that's where we were probably going out. There was no internet, no tech.
I think it's the best time to be born as well, because we have seen the both side, We have lived the both side pretty much. Yeah,
become appreciate both the completely analog as opposed to also the benefits you get today from tech.
So you finished your high school in your local town, local city, and then you went to university in the same place as well, or you went to different place?
Well, in Switzerland, it's like an aggregation of let's say, villages and towns together, where they then go to study basically at university. I mentioned it at the beginning, just quick teaser on the landscape of Switzerland. You can either do the full-time theoretical part or the part-time work and study part, basically. And this was like the first life decision, especially if somebody is in the audience 16, 17 years of age, which one should you choose? This was kind of me back then.
What did you choose to study like after your high school?
It was mostly just as a coincidence. So when I was 15, I was playing a lot of video games. That's probably everybody. So I wasn't the most conscious of like what exactly should I study. It was more like
generally when you're 15 or 16, a lot of time you have, I want to be this. And then you chose that path, after your high school. Me, I wanted to be a teacher.
Oh, really? Okay.
English teacher. So I majored in English. And then later I realized, no, this is messed up. And then I changed my path completely, But in your case, what did you choose to study after high school?
I think it's like but that's the actual difficulty, right? So you're 16 years of age and you're in this world of exploring. Maybe like first time you maybe are leaving more and more your parents' house. You maybe have different friends. So I think it's a highly difficult decision to be taking at 16. And especially in Switzerland, it's a huge pressure decision, because if you choose, let's say in quotes, the wrong decision, you're pretty much stuck to that for like 10, 12 years if you really go down the university path. So as an example, if you want to become a doctor, you're studying until 32. And that's based on a decision when you're 16. If you're a teacher, it's the same. So you have to make this high stakes decision at the age of 16, which I think is somewhat a bit overlooked on the difficulty. So in my case, it was mostly like a pull as opposed to a push on my end. So I was pulled into this business world, I think mostly because I had some people around me and their parents were like successful bankers or successful insurance brokers. It was like in the pre-AI, pre-IT world. So nobody was in IT. But back then it was mostly business, finance, banking. But it was mostly like shaped by the parents around me. And this is kind of what I more or less just became to happen. Like I chose business at university mixed with innovation, and there was always some IT exposure, so I got curious on that. But like business was basically the field I chose in bachelor's and just went on full in. But it wasn't really a conscious decision. Like it was mostly playing soccer and like trying to understand the world, and then making this very, I would say, challenging decision at the age of 16. Where should I be at age 32 or 35? I don't know if it was the same for you sometimes. It was like, what should I even be doing?
Yeah, for me it was like pretty much different. Yeah, I want to mention, you mentioned parents, right? So does your parents had influence in your decision making, what you want to study and what you want to do, or it's all up on you?
I think in my case there was some guidance, certainly, which I much appreciated. I mean, both of my parents were working in different kind of fields, mostly again a little bit business fields. So I of course had many conversations, but I think most of my parents' guidance was more on the freedom side of things. Choose what you're being pulled into, which for me I couldn't really decode. Like, what does that even mean? Like, what should I be doing? And actually in Switzerland you get a list in your 8th grade of jobs. And then you get into these like exercises when you're like 14, 15 years old. Which one do I like? And you get all these pictures. I mean, back then it was like this. You get all these pictures of being an electrician, a picture of being a teacher, a picture of being a nurse, a lawyer, a banker. And you have to like, this is kind of what I'm interested in. This is kind of what I'm more interested in. And at the end of the day, it's like, it's a very difficult exercise. But there's like a particular course where it then helps you to like guide this decision, but it's mostly shaped by the teacher. But yeah, to answer your question, yes, it was also a bit more on the, I would say on the backbone. They kind of helped me, maybe not this, maybe go for that, as opposed to just do that.
So you're pretty much inspired by the surrounding and then you chose the path, right? In our country, like in Nepal, a lot of time, not a lot of time, most of the time parents force their children what they need to study and stuff. And sometimes the kids don't want to do that, and then they end up being like completely spoiled, and they don't do that, and then they are stuck in between.
It's probably this like balance you have to strike between guiding your children to a future that you know is more successful, but as opposed to also giving them some degrees of freedom to decide what they're kind of pulled into.
I'm gonna mention a true story. It was my primary school teacher. She was a lady, right? They had 2 kids, 2 boys. One of their boys, I think he studied to become a doctor. And then once he became a doctor, he passed his degree and everything. And then he killed himself with the notes, "Mom, Dad, I became a doctor for you." And then he just died.
Well, I mean, it's high pressures usually, right?
It's crazy. They never ask their kid what they want to do. And, I think you want it to be in some completely different field maybe, But he was studying doctor because parents were forcing him. But at the end, he did manage to get a degree, and then he wrote a note, and then he killed himself. Now they lost his son, right?
I mean, it's kind of these things I was mentioning. Like, you have to probably give some guidance, but not too much, as opposed to forcing your child to a future she or he doesn't like.
At least it's the good thing about Europe. Like, parents, they can, suggest ideas and stuff, but they don't, force their kids to do certain things. And because still in our country, even at the marriage thing, if let's say I want to get married to some European girl that I'm dating, let's say I want to get married to her, still my parents would say, no, you can't do that. So they kind of emotionally, try to blackmail you. You're gonna do this, you're gonna leave us, a lot of things. So in that case, we are still behind. We are not that open.
Yeah, I mean maybe, but there most likely also are some Swiss families that have the same reasoning, probably. I don't know, but in my case, it just wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
It was more like flexibility. But yeah, I also heard many stories like that. I mean, not particularly in my friend circle, but like friend circle a little bit. That some people, or at least my peers, were pressured into becoming a banker or becoming an insurance broker, whereas their dream was more like some creative endeavors, musician or something similar.
So, as you mentioned, you chose to study IT in Switzerland, right?
First business, yeah. So the first decision.
First you went to business? Yeah. Okay. And then you switched to IT?
Yeah. So this was more like the business route. Back then, to be honest, like in 2009, IT was like this thing on the horizon.
Yeah.
Like this hardware people, basically. So you study informatics back then, which was mostly like a hardware job. Yes, you had some programming, maybe some very early days C++, maybe some very old school Java.
Yeah, I remember back in 2012 or 13, a lot of people were saying, IT is going to be a future, blah, blah. But there was not really, a picture of what to do, what to study. There was a concept was there. It's going to be a big thing in the future, but there was not like, proper framework there for people.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, I remember one of my best friends from youth, he was studying informatics, and I went into this business world. I mean, my business world was like up-to-date elements from like many years ago, established strategies or innovation concepts, whereas IT was mostly this like side story. And it was only after many years that I realized, mostly from an input from, I would say maybe like some mentor I had when I was 19, 20, slightly before I went into consulting. Maybe I can speak about that later. But this was more like a person that told me, hey, for 5 years, always choose a focus topic. And for 5 years, you go all in. So my first focal topic was most likely just business, followed by then finance. And then only the second focus topic I chose many years ago was then IT. But it was mostly just based on that kind of idea, okay, for 5 years you can go all in, meaning all in, try to make money from that, try to create content, educate other people, and so on and so forth. So these 5-year concepts first led me to business, many years. And then IT, when it became probably a bit more trending and more value creating as it was 2010.
You did bachelor's in business and then you did master's in IT, or how did that all?
Well, I did bachelor's in business, master's in business, and then master's in IT. So it's like a little bit all over the place. But so when I was, again, this like decision that I had when I was 16, it was most likely just a business decision. But then, as I mentioned, like you're kind of on that train. So you're like moving forward 4 or 5 years. My very first job officially was at a Big Four company. So I was like being pulled a little bit into this finance world after graduating from business, where I learned most of the concepts on how not to invest your money, because I was going into all these financial companies and trying to understand how they generate money, basically, and went to this investing jobs, hedge funds, collective investments. And that kind of, I would say, taught me a lot of how to deploy assets, how to try to look at investing as an opportunity as opposed to just something you kind of have to do. So this was like I joined this company when I was 19, which was pretty early for working 70 hours a week. It was like my first official job of being this like business grad, yeah.
So for you, studying business and having a business degree, how much it helped you now to, to grow as an entrepreneur and to grow you financially, all these things?
I think, it's a good question. At the end of the day, again, it's mostly theoretical.
Because I want to add into that. Because now in YouTube world, in the internet world, you see a lot of people saying, "Oh, college is a scam." Having a business degree doesn't do shit. All these things. I wonder like how it saved you. Having a degree.
I think there's like two notions on this. The first one is the hard knowledge, like what's actually been taught at university, and the other one is the skill to acquire the knowledge. Yeah. So maybe if I take the first one, like the actual hard knowledge, like strategy books from Harvard. Innovation from maybe Cambridge, like all these old school way of thinking. I don't think it's pretty much applicable to many businesses. But then again, if you're starting a business, you probably have some sort of strategy canvas. You're looking at your competitors. You're looking at your value proposition. So
Yeah.
all these frameworks, that's probably the most valuable part from a business school. Can you get that online? 100%. Like you can just go online, but maybe you don't really know what to look for.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
So that's the hard knowledge. A huge part of business school is finance. So accounting, corporate finance, valuation. This of course helps you tremendously if you set up a company and you need to, of course, all legally, but look into an accounting scheme of how do you generate the balance sheet, the profit and loss calculation, cash flow statement. This was mostly I got from business school. Like this was highly valuable stuff. Of course, there's a lot of side information as well that you can sometimes put it into the background unless you go into the field without mentioning any. But some is very useful, some is a bit less useful. And then to the intangible one, which I mostly, again, teased a bit before as like the notion of how you acquire knowledge. This is like the most valuable element. You have a system of how you can acquire knowledge fast and reliable.
Yeah.
You have a system of how you retrieve knowledge fast and reliable, how you study hard for many, many hours, stress resiliency, planning, like all these things are incredibly valuable, I think, from a university. But that's not the stuff you get because of the degree, right? You just get because you have to go through the pain.
You have to go through all the discipline, all the tests, all the hard work. And then that definitely keep you on track, especially moving forward. And I want to add into that. So you finished your business degree, you went to IT. I think you started working between that, right? You're working and studying as well.
I was at 19. So basically I'm working since I was 15. Okay. So I was in corporate since 15. Switzerland's very common. First, it was like a mild job kind of office work, but then consulting. And so always working aside from the study. So my week was usually like Monday to Friday I was working, mostly abroad, like being 19, 20, going to a different country, to these financial companies. Then Saturday I had university. And Sunday I was just packing again to travel again. So this was like my routine. But I was always working and traveling. Sorry, not traveling, but working and studying. Yeah.
So and then you switched to IT. You studied for how long? 2-3 years?
Well, this was a bit, again, in Switzerland there's like these predefined slots, 2-3 years you would usually take for. But then I was a bit more on the application front again. So I didn't go back to the theoretical part. I always tried to mix it with like application of the studied. Whereas if you're in business, sometimes it's a bit more difficult. In IT, you can learn the concept and you can build a prototype. In business, like the prototype is sometimes a bit the stuff you have to imagine. So the business might be the prototype. But in IT is more applicable. Went back, but again, always working.
So the current job you have is in IT, right? Related to IT. Yeah.
So the current, I have a few different activities that I do on a day-to-day. So one is teaching. Yeah. The other one is AI related. I have a channel on AI as well, a podcast as well. Restarted that. And after YouTube took my old channel down on cryptocurrency. That's another story. So it's mostly IT, mostly AI that I'm currently doing.
So how did you get into AI? It's kind of a new thing, right? But what was interesting about AI?
It came from university. So I went to a pretty good school in Switzerland that taught me this like module when that was in 2018, 19, just on AI basically. That was pre-ChatGPT. That was before many of the current concepts are even around, and it just triggered kind of my interest that you have this like artificially intelligent entity and that can do stuff for you. That I kind of triggered my interest, went into that rabbit hole again for a 5-year window. But again, it came from university. So to answer your question before, yes, I actually helped me to first go into finance and then go into AI as well.
So from what I've heard, you have a business degree, you have a degree in IT, you worked as a consultant, and you work as in an IT company as well now. You are involved in crypto.
Yeah, mostly crypto now as an investor, so not building anything.
Now you are just investing in crypto. I think you also have a business in AI, related to AI, and you also do teaching, you mentioned. So you're involved in a lot of things, right? So you're alone, like you're solo, right? But how do you manage all these things?
It's sometimes better, sometimes worse. So there's always ups and downs. I think every time I see you, I think there's always some new problem that's popping up. So it's going back to these early days at university. The system to deal with these problems is actually the ones that actually are helpful. I mean, I do have a day-to-day split where mostly the teaching is in the evenings. It's just something I care a lot about, to give back to basically the schools that raised me in Switzerland. So I'm teaching at the school I actually got my degrees.
Okay.
Exactly. So I was always had this like idea of, once I go through all this, I think I studied over 10 years.
Okay, for the audience, I think I know what you do, but for the audience, what do you actually teach at the university?
So it's different modules. So it's the area of data science, and so basically some earlier modules in the bachelor's degree of like, how do you use statistics? Like, it's pretty, I mean, most people will probably say it's pretty boring stuff, but it's quantitative and qualitative methods, meaning statistics, meaning how to do research, like that, and as well a finance course as well. This semester it always changes a little bit. Mostly, actually, the course now is on investing as well, and intermixing that with venture capital and just some things I learned in the real world.
And how often do you have to do classes?
So classes really vary. In Switzerland, we have an ECTS system. So it's like this credit scoring system we have. So currently I co-teach. So I don't teach by myself only. I have also professors that teach with me. So I don't have to teach every single week. So it really varies. I would say, if I put a name, like a number on the weekly teaching, it's maybe 8 hours, six hours every 2 weeks, not every week. So it's like ups and downs. Sometimes it's a lot more, sometimes it's a little bit less. But I also try to do it remote as well. I think most universities do that. Like, you have it on Teams, one-to-one coachings is mostly remote.
So since you're involved in all these different things, what is the most fun you have doing? Like, which areas you enjoy the most?
I think that it's a good question. I think if I don't enjoy anything, I probably would drop it. So not do it anymore whatsoever. I think it's a combination. Like, much of my time is focused on AI, like the latest research, the latest applications, try to make sense of what's actually happening, implementing that into great products and services, as opposed to also talent research, looking for new individuals. We're trying to get into the IT world, so a lot of interviews, a lot of talent acquisition, talent strategies. Like, that's something I enjoy the most, working with people. On the teaching front, I like to be, again, giving back to students, trying to mentor them. Just, again, on the decisions that I just learned are the most important ones, the 16-year-olds, the 20-year-olds, the 25, like all these 5 years chapters. That's probably what I enjoy the most. I also like traveling, but maybe. And
I forgot to mention, you also create contents. You like to create contents. Do you enjoy doing it?
Well, the actual content creation part, I think I mostly enjoy the creative, like brainstorming. We quickly talked before, Notion, like all these applications you can use. I could do a lot of research. And then the act of speaking. So I got that many years ago from, again, a mentor of mine. Like, the most important skill you can invest your time in your early 20s is speaking. Like, just speaking fluently, doesn't matter what language it is. But it's such a high skill that people just sometimes neglect. If you do a sales pitch, you need good speaking. If you do teaching, you need good speaking. Content as well.
I completely agree with that, because at least one language you need to be super fluent. Speak with the flow, use every good word you can use, Because I think if you are not able to, put the idea into your people's mind, then, I don't know, it's pretty hard, right? So in every business, in every areas, in sales, in marketing, everything you do, you need to be able to present your idea to the people, right? So bring the hard part, bring the hard conversation, and make it present in a way that, people can understand easily. So I completely agree with that. Andrew Tate, he also said, if you can speak fluently without all the filling word, you pretty much convince everyone. You can't convince anyone with.
I mean, speaking is a social construct. It's like two humans interact with each other. I read a really good book the other day, which is called Pitch Anything. So anybody in the audience, if you're into sales, if you're into controlling a conversation, read this book, Pitch Anything. But a concept called frame control, like how you can control narratives. If you do a sales pitch, like it's just one of the things that happens all the time. People try to counter you in your arguments, and this book helps you to basically be countering that. In teaching, even though it sounds sometimes a little bit easy, but I actually have a huge respect also you wanting to become a teacher. Like, it's not that easy to engage. Most of my classes are like 40, 50 students, like for 45 minutes. Like, you have to be on the game, speaking without interruptions and without the amps. So it's actually, again, a skill that you have to develop all the time. And I think, to your question, content helped me to, again, accelerate a bit this skill of speaking.
I think I'm on that path as well. I'm trying to improve the way I speak, and to improve myself each and every day. Since you are in a stage where now you're working, you're doing a bunch of different things, so you are definitely financially in a situation where you can start investing, build a portfolio, for the future. So what do you suggest for the people who want to get into investing and finance, all these things?
I mean, it's a delicate question without financial advice. But I think something I learned is just, again, from these early days when I was working in the Indian industry, is like investing funds, or times referred to as ETFs, exchange traded funds. They are like sold to everybody in the world, possibly. Yeah. But most of them are like just charging a lot of fees. So for anybody new in the audience in the investing world, the first thing probably you're getting sold is ETFs. It's just a bunch of stocks together. Yeah. But then for this service of putting them together, they're actually charging you 2-3%, which I just learned when I was like looking into all these different companies that setting up these funds. It's usually not the greatest way, or at least you as an investor, you don't get the greatest return, as opposed to. But that's just a different framing on that as well. Like how much of your personal wealth you anyway want to outsource to anybody else. So I think I learned when I was 21, going all to these different vehicles, I just want to be the sole owner of my own cash and investments. And in order to be knowing how to do it, I have to educate myself. My university degree didn't really teach me much about my investing. It helped me a lot how to invest as a company. Yeah. Like cash optimization, balance sheet stuff, but not really on my personal investing game. So this was mostly acquired through a few, actually very few books. So if you're completely new to the investing game, and then I can talk a little bit about maybe what to do in today's world, you really need 3 books. You need a book that helps you on the strategy of investing. You need to have a book on the psychology, because you are mostly the biggest weak point. And you most likely need one that even if the psychology works, your brain cannot interfere. So these are the 3 books I recommend to anybody. There is no numbers involved in this book, other than maybe a few very easy to calculate numbers. The first one, Intelligent Investor. This helps you. By highly recommended by Warren Buffett. Margin of safety is the concept that you will learn. The other one is Psychology of Money. You need to have something. If the market turns red, you don't panic. So this is this book for this. Okay. And the third one is Your Money and Your Brain. It's the neuroscience behind investing. So if you read these 3 books, you're completely good for the rest of your life. And again, the notions is really you have to be in a market where everybody's against you. And you just have to be prepared. You have the tools and the psychology and, again, the brain ready to be making great investment decisions. So that's mostly just that. And I think, again, going through these motions of looking into these very different vehicles, everything, hedge funds, derivatives, stocks, bonds, everything that you can possibly think of. I just realized what makes sense and not.
So imagine I read all the book you mentioned. I have all the plans, what I want to do and where I want to invest. But there's so many things you can invest in, right? There's gold, silver, stocks. Now crypto is pretty big, and AI. So many things you can invest in. So in your opinion, what do you think is the best way to start? And is it traditional investing like stocks and gold, or they can also get into crypto? What do you suggest?
I think that if you're completely new to the investing world, I think read the books first before you even start to deploy any of your assets. Because again, the notion is you don't want to outsource your wealth. You want to have ownership 100% of how you deploy it. Then you can speak about it, and then you can even educate your friends and family about it. So that's like the first step I would consider. The second step, make sure you got your risk profile ready. Like, how much are you willing to lose? Are you willing to lose 10%, 20%, 50% in a market downturn? That's probably the second.
On your net worth, like 10%, 20%?
On your overall portfolio. Yes. For example, if you go into crypto, yes, there is high upside. You can make 50 to 100%, 4, 5, or 6x, meaning 700% profit. Yeah. But you can also lose 75%, depending on if you enter a pump and dump or anything else is happening. Same with stocks. I mean, recently we saw some more volatility, mostly because of the US, and this is something you have to consider. So second point, make sure you got your risk profile ready. You can just simply put that on a paper. I'm willing to lose 20% of my finance, of my portfolio. Maybe don't have to sell it, but it's like unrealized loss. So that's probably the second thing you have to do. And depending on your risk profile, you can choose your investment vehicle. So if you're not willing to lose 20 or 50%, crypto is off the table. If you're not willing to lose more than 15% or maybe 20%, tech stocks are off the table because they can go up and down 20, 30%. So you're probably just easing into an actual reasoning bound of maybe good stocks that you can basically be getting, or bonds, which are more safe. And then you just go from there. I would suggest probably doing that approach, because again, if you lose, I'm just making up a number, but $50,000 a day, it's kind of bad. But again, if you then have this risk profile, I'm actually willing to lose, assuming 50,000 is 10%, I'm actually willing to lose that much, then it's kind of okay-ish, and you just don't panic.
Yeah, for me, investing, I see in a way, it's the way to grow your money. It's not the way to make your money. You should make your money elsewhere, and then have all your budget, how much you're gonna spend in your personal life for family, all these things, and then the cash that you maybe afford to lose, or the cash that you can save, and then start investing that money. So that way, when the market turns red, you don't panic, because so you don't know what to do. So you can be more relaxed, or
or even buy more,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
if you say, okay, I'm fully into whatever stock, I'm not going to name any for financial advice reasons, but like any stocks that can drop 20%, it might be a cheap opportunity to buy if you know the business and you've done your research. So it might be a good opportunity.
Yeah, I've seen some friends of mine, they got into crypto, it's a bull market, everything is going up, and then they quit their job, and then they think that this thing gonna feed them, and then suddenly the market crash, and then they are panicked, and then they panic sell, you know what I mean? So they lose their job because they think the crypto gonna make them millionaire, and then they don't have their job. They put all the asset into crypto, and now that one is going down as well. So they're in a situation, So I think you advise the same, right? So you should have your income elsewhere, and then put the money that you afford to grow. Or
since I'm teaching and I'm a fan of statistics, it's usually highly difficult to make money day trading. Of course, there is except for individuals, and I'm like I speak highly of them.
Right?
Probably, I don't know the stats, but it's probably most likely unlikely that you make a high income of day trading. You make one or two good trades, but it's a full-time job at the end of the day as well.
Yeah,
it's just not something I enjoy doing, in analyzing the charts all the time. I'm more of a fundamental investing person. I think that's maybe the third notion. Which one do you want to be? Do you want to be the technical analysis person that looks into the candle charts, and most of the stuff you actually see maybe on the internet is around analysis, technical analysis and indicators. I have a really good friend that's really, really into this. I'm mostly a defender of the components of fundamental investing in good business, good cash flow, good future strategy, and then I'm kind of putting my money there because my investment horizon is 10, 20, 50 years. I don't really mind if it's going down or up.
Compounding is the best way. You put it on and then you wait it out, keep compounding. So I think we've covered a lot of topics already. Now I want to get into AI more deeper. So now AI is a big thing, right? So everyone is talking about AI. People are so invested, especially a lot of younger generation. They are so into AI. So what do you think the future of AI in the next 3 to 5 years?
It's a good question. I think at the end of the day, we don't know. I think we can't predict the future. I think that's probably the first part of the answer. The second part, I think just for the general audience, I think the actual interesting thing in AI is like how fast it progresses. Just before AI, there was something called Moore's Law, where you can more or less estimate how fast the speed of computers are going to become in the future. And now with AI, this is completely out of the wind, and we have like this curve that's really just going up. So that's maybe the first notion, that for a human individual, it's usually very difficult to understand a 10x or 100x improvement as opposed to just a doubling and a tripling. So in 5 years, we could have anything from artificial general intelligence to just another ChatGPT probably. Maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle, that we certainly get highly capable models that can do most things same, if not better, than any human in the world collectively, maybe even as well. So you can think about one entity, an AI model that's capable of doing anything at the same time, like all humans together. So that's probably where we are heading. There's still some like roadblocks ahead. For example, the constraint is currently on electricity, so they need more electricity and compute. But if we get these two sorted, again, electricity and compute, I think the future is endless. I don't know where we are landing, but certainly exciting to be in the field, especially on this curve. There's a lot of opportunities. If something is going very fast, many individuals, businesses, they're left behind. And that's exactly where you, for example, as a content creator can come in, as a consultant can come in, or as a builder. So basically, it's a great time to be entering AI.
Let's talk about the business that you are involved in related to AI, right? You have a photo generator thing in the AI?
Yeah, that's usually actually where we started. So in 2023, again, mostly pre-ChatGPT, which is thought was a great application of AI back then.
Yeah.
ChatGPT wasn't really as good as it is today. So back then it was mostly image models. Also from uni, I mostly had this focused on image generation. I kind of liked this type of world. So we basically just invented, like, I think in Switzerland, one of the first, or certainly in Europe as well, one of the first like image generator where nowadays you can use everything, like from being in Saint-Tropez to be in a private jet. Of course, this is kind of normal nowadays, but back then, even in 2023, it wasn't normal. Our first use case was just CV pictures. So instead of going to a photographer, you could actually go just to our software, and this would do anything for you. Then, of course, future applications came, like you can put yourself as a speaker, you can put yourself for a picture on a dating app, like all that. But that was always later. So again, the reason why we did it is because back then the AI, large language models, they weren't really capable of doing what they are today. I think in 2025, that's why we also shifted gear a little bit into more agentic artificial intelligence, building on actually the large language models and not the image models anymore. It's just because...
Yeah, let's talk about that. What actually is agentic artificial intelligence?
I think, again, large language model, just to roll up the context for the audience, it's just like it's basically ChatGPT, right? You can ask a question, it comes back, and you have this interaction like you used to have on Google, mostly for knowledge exchange. There is certain actions it can do, like go on the internet or do an Excel analysis. So this is certain actions. And I would say the next stage then on agentic AI is most likely just the autonomous execution of tasks. So think about, for example, if you're a bank or if you're an insurance company and you have a particular job, this can now be fully done with AI.
You know, a lot of companies now, they have this thing for customer support, like people can type the question and then it responds.
Yeah.
Is it similar model or what is it?
I think it's mostly like the intermediary step. So first it was just the large language models, then you got chatbots, which can be multiple LLMs. So, I mean, I can go if you want a bit into the technical detail, but you might think about like a brain that has like a one component is like analyzing what the customer wants. So that's a small large language model. Yeah. Then you have a larger one, which is the intelligent one. So it's actually making the answer, for example. And maybe a third one is checking what's actually going back to the customer. So the chatbot has multiple large language models tied to it. Again, one checks the input, the other one does we call this computation or reasoning at inference, basically doing the analysis or generating the response. The third one is giving back the question, but checks if it makes sense or not. Very simple, high level. So this is a chatbot. This is not agentic artificial intelligence. These are chatbots. There's also a voice bot, for example, in this mid-tier, I would say. The voice bot is simply a chatbot that has a voice model. So there, instead of 3 models, now there are 4 models. So that's like the chat and the voice bot world. This was like 2024. Most, I would say, companies were building on that. You just, again, need great large language models that are very fast, reliable, and cheap. So these are the 3 things you would be wanting. Agentic is one step further. You might have a similar structure like the brain I was mentioning, but instead of 3, 4 LLMs, you maybe have 10 or 7, 8, and they have different tasks. There's different architectures. I don't want to go too much into the detail, but it's really what we talk about in my podcast with really 2 AI engineers they're building these systems. And it's mostly just, there's similar architectures like you can have with humans. Like one part of the AI agent is doing some sort of analysis. The other one is executing a paperwork kind of. The third one is making sure all the documents are, all the reporting is basically taking into consideration a company has, all the knowledge is coming in, and then it executes tasks. So you can basically thinking every human process is just done by an AI. And like we humans, we have to go through years of training Similarly, the AI now has to go through years of training, but most likely measured in months, and then executing these tasks like a human would do. So this is more agentic.
So you personally, how much are you gonna be invested in this AI and stuff?
190% probably. Oh, you mean on the stock side or on the time side?
On the time side, like to build something there, or to understand this.
Yeah,
better.
I think we completely shifted in 2020, mid 2024 last year, from image to large language models. I think, as most people probably did, building in the space, you started somewhere, mostly with image first, at least kind of the people around me, because this was actually the stuff you could actually be charging money.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason why we did first image and not large language was simply because I wasn't comfortable charging anybody anything in 2023 because the output was just like complete nonsense.
Yeah.
Nowadays, nobody talks about hallucinations. But back then in 2023, everybody was like, this is hallucinated, this is wrong, this is not correct. So you couldn't go to a company and you could basically be saying, okay, we're implementing you this system, but by the way, it's like 40% wrong. Whereas again, image was ready.
Yeah.
And now I think that's why our podcast is called This is the Year. We believe this is the year to build on large language models. And so far it was just the year or the years for image models. But yeah, to answer your question, any minute I can think about it.
How much do you take care of yourself personally, like physically and mentally, spiritually, and what do you do to take care of that?
I think it's something that just popped up probably some years ago, only when I became a little bit older. Right? Before it wasn't really a necessity, and now I think it just became a daily habit. I think maybe like yourself, I have some, although it's a bit all over the internet sometimes with like memes in the morning, like cold plunge, I call that at 6 a.m. I don't really do that, but yeah, I certainly have maybe some four or five buckets on the physical side.
Mm-hmm.
A morning routine. I try to get up a little bit earlier, sleep well, which is like the pre-morning routine.
Yeah.
I read a really good book called Why We Sleep. So this like deconstructs all the importance of sleep. So sleep is really important. Morning routine, very briefly, a few minutes, not like hours, which involves like meditation, visualization. You mentioned how I manage all these different things. It's mostly, I think, because I meditate and I try to set the day right for whatever comes. So meditation is really a big part. Eat healthy. I actually quit completely alcohol. Let's see how long I can be quitting still. But currently I really don't drink since like a few months.
I mean, that's a big thing. You said you quit, but you don't have to like completely quit. If you reduce it down to, let's say, 3 or 4 times a year.
Yeah, I think it's a reasonable time.
That's reasonable, like instead of going every week and getting drunk and stuff, because that's out of the box.
Yeah, I think alcohol, I just don't. I mean, a really good friend of mine, we share a lot of the studies like on the negative effects of alcohol. To me, I just feel it. Like every time I drink, I think we talked about it the other day.
Yeah.
You drink on a Saturday, I'm out until Tuesday, and it's just not something I enjoy doing. And it also just sets me back. Like any day I cannot do something I want to do, it's just, why would I be drinking on a Saturday?
I don't know, me personally, I like to, even when I go out party or dancing, whatever, I like to be more sharp in my head and understand what's happening at the surrounding, instead of being drunk and wasted.
Yeah, and you're just like semi-present, and most time you forget some experiences.
I mean, when I was 18, 19, I get drunk and then I kind of get more confidence.
Yeah, that's mostly why people do
crazy
it.
Shit. But now I do what I can do with the conscious mind, instead of faking it, with the alcohol and later regretting it,
And also, I mean, the whole, again, effect on the body is evident that it's toxic.
Exactly, yeah.
But again, most people, me including, multiple years. Of course, I think we go through that learning curve, like everybody does probably. And then at some point you realize, well, maybe I can try without. And then you realize you actually can survive.
Yeah, I think the problem with people is a lot of people, they go through same phase like you and me been through, So some people, they completely quit on the later stage because their life and their goals are more important than those things, party and alcohol and drinks. And for some people, if they don't have like real meaning of their life, they don't have proper goals, they don't know what they want to do, so they continue on that path even on their 50s, so it's never ending to them.
Yeah, I think even most people don't. I mean, I cannot talk for everybody, but I certainly encounter people that don't have goals, that don't have objectives. And if you don't have any reason why not to drink, because you cannot fulfill a certain goal, be it, for example, travel to somewhere, or save some money, invest, build a business, whatever. Well, you maybe just drink and you kind of go with the flow.
I mean, once you cross a certain age, let's say if you cross your 40s and then your options are limited, you know what you can do in your life. And then you're just stuck, you know, you just continue to do what you're doing.
Yeah.
And then I think that's how people become alcoholic or, you know, even drug addict, you know, if you don't have like true purpose in your life.
But it also depends who you are. I think you have as a surrounding, right? All these law of averages, I really believe in that.
That's the main key point, yeah. But still, if you have proper goal and, you know, responsibility that you need to rely on, you know, that you need to fulfill, then, you know, even if you want to do that, that's kind of push you back. No, I can't do that.
And honestly, like why I realized it so much, I got this Whoop, or there's also Aura and like a Garmin, like all these trackers. I just saw when I was actually drinking or had a rough night, it was like my recovery was like in Whoop, there's like orange, green, and red. It was always red. And I just realized like it's kind of even on the tracker, and I also don't feel well. Like, why would I even be doing this? I don't need it. I don't need it for the self-confidence. I don't need it to enjoy the moment. Exactly, so why would I? And I have to spend money on top.
Exactly right.
So I'm a frugal person sometimes. Like,
you
why would I?
You mentioned recovery. It's the worst thing. Like if you work out and you drink alcohol.
Yeah, you're double down basically.
You double down. It's crazy. Like you train. The train is worthless because you don't recover properly.
Only can do that, and I have a similar feeling because you either achieved a lot and on top of that you experienced a lot, so you feel like I have no FOMO, even if I don't go to the club.
A lot of time you've done everything and then you're like, okay, what if I go there, what am I gonna miss, right? So nothing. Same like this Sant Antonio festival happening in Lisbon, right?
Yeah,
I went for 2 years in a row, and then it's the same sardine, same shit music playing around. The music I don't even understand, you know. And all the people just going around, walking around, getting drunk. Nothing's there. And
well, in Switzerland we also have that. It's like street parade, like a multi-million, not a multi-million, but like 1 million people go to rave. Yeah. Certainly a lot of alcohol consumptions. But yeah, it's all these different, again, but you mentioned it, I think, perfectly. 3-4 times, whatever, how many times you can minimize. Yeah. Not the end of the world, but if you can, maybe. For me, at least, I just leave it away.
So what about your mind and spiritually? Do you do anything just to, you know?
I think it's certainly something I probably focus a little bit more now in the latest part of my 20s and like the early 30s. Spirituality, I think I would also just basically be saying, okay, I'm just more or less going into this field now. It's not a particular, I think, a component I spend a lot of time reading about. Certainly now I think I spend more time getting into this, like, I would say, spiritual understanding, reading books. I think
you need to be a lot calmer, you know, to be into that zone.
Yeah.
Because now we are so, you know, we are everywhere. Our mind is everywhere, you know, we are super active. So it's hard to just sit down and relax and, you know, be in the moment, like spiritually.
Yeah, even to meditate, like that's why it's difficult.
Yeah, exactly. It's very hard. I had a client. He said, start meditating. It's really good. And he even gave me some tips how to do it and stuff. I tried. And I just couldn't be in that zone, like he said, I'm gonna be, you know.
But that's kind of the exercise, right? So every single day I'm doing this for I don't know how many years, probably 6 years, maybe more, and it doesn't get easier. Like it's just this one thing, like cold showers. I do that too. This doesn't get easier. It's always the same cold, and my body never likes the cold.
Yeah, exactly.
And the same is in meditation, like these 10 seconds that you need to think on your breathing. Yeah. It's always getting difficult.
And what about mentally? Like, do you feel drained sometimes? Do you feel like less energy than the other day? Or
I think so. I mean, it mostly comes down to, again, I mentioned probably good sleep, good nutrition. But yeah, there are certainly days where I feel like I don't want to do anything. But I think it's these days that you have to, like, certain inner voice to then push, right? So it's like, instead of not doing anything, for example, I hardly ever skip the gym. For me, this is like a non-negotiable unless I have a pain or something. So I always go 5 to 6 days a week. On the work side of things, it just piles up. If I take 1 day off, I just feel I'm 4 days behind. So I always have to keep pushing. But yeah, there's certainly days where I feel I can work 10, 12, 14 hours. And there's other days where I feel after 8, or
And
something.
what about like procrastination or lazy days? How do you tackle with that?
I think I read the book again on this like pile up of in regard to procrastination. Like I hardly ever do procrastinate. If I do, again, it just comes back to me 4 times harder. And I think I got this realization that just try not to do it. If I procrastinate multiple times on the same element, I'm more reason why do I dislike it so much? I just try to remove it. So this is more like that. I don't procrastinate for the same things for years. I just try to remove it. So if I don't like to do, for example, invoicing, or I don't like to do some accounting or some board or some stuff, I just try to automate, or
instead of forcing yourself to do it, just
or even if I can delegate, sometimes it is more difficult than other times, or outsource. Like that's like when I used to do content, or nowadays like editing, outsourced. I don't like to do the thumbnails, outsourced. Like all these small things that just I don't want to have it procrastinated on my end. I try to outsource.
Okay, I want to ask you about the 5-year plan you mentioned earlier. You know, how do you describe that 5-year plans you do?
So it's actually a good question. I mean, it's mostly like on the meta topic, which topic is going to be relevant for the next 5 years. Before it was cryptocurrency, finance. Now it's AI. So I basically just research what's the hottest topic and where are the business opportunities. And then from there, I try to map back to what I can do. Again, build the business, software, or being it content, education. So I have this like map of different elements. If you're building a business, you need to be doing sales or content, or maybe teaching about it. So this is anyway going into these buckets basically. But as an example, in the crypto world, trying to build a blockchain project that was like regarding loyalty points. This was like one element. Then teaching about it on TikTok and on YouTube. And then again, investing it myself. So this was like the crypto area. Now with AI, similar, teaching about it, building in the space, content. So it's always this triangle of different activities for 5 years. And I can still stick to the next 5 years as well. I just have a check-in so that I have to redecide, is it still going to be AI or am I moving to quantum computing or whatever it will be?
You know, you are involved in a lot of different things. So if you have to choose just one thing, you know, to do, let's say for the next 10 years.
I think that's probably the hardest questions you ask today. I mean, the reason why I have so many is because I can't commit to one. So I have all at the same time. And I like to switch between of them. I think I really like to do the teaching part. I really like. But again, only teaching I wouldn't want to be doing. I like the business part. Only the business part I don't like to be doing.
What about you can just work remotely and travel around?
I mean, I tried that and I just didn't really fulfill me to the extent I think I wanted to be. Mostly because, again, it's not really about minimizing the work. It's maximizing the time I spend on the things I enjoy doing. And I don't mind working 15 hours a day. Like I do that oftentimes. I work on Sundays. We talked about that multiple times. You yourself also, Saturdays. I don't want to get rid of working. I just want to maximize again the time that I enjoy doing what I'm doing. So that's really what I'm focused on, as opposed to traveling. I was traveling to 60 plus countries, and again, like I don't need to do that for the next 20 years.
I mean, what would you do differently if you were, let's say, 20 years old again?
I would probably buy Bitcoin a lot more than what happened after that, and again, probably try to take more risks. I really only realized when I was 26, 27 that, again, it's a risk-reward ratio in life. The more risk you take, again, with some probability, the more reward you get. So take more risks, build earlier, prototype, get yourself out there, as opposed to maybe waiting when you feel secure, because you never will. And
compounding interest or compounding knowledge?
Well, depends on how much assets you have to begin with. $1,000 to compound takes some time, but it also certainly builds up. I think I would probably choose compound interest.
And what's the best way you would say to get to first 100K?
First 100K is to forget investing, I think, most of the parts, and just build on cash flow. So get a job, high-paying job as a freelancer, as a contractor. Again, in the world of AI, very much possible. Learn Python, learn full stack like engineering, Java, for example, or front ends. Get into data science. Any of these hot jobs, do that. compound for 4 or 5 years, and you probably most likely land at 100K. But honestly, this investing and day trading, I don't think yields you the fastest 100K.
Most underrated skill for 2025, what would you say?
Public speaking.
Public speaking. And for the next 5 years?
Public speaking. Probably public speaking. Sales is about public speaking. Teaching, business is about speaking. I think all other skills you can somewhat fake or you can outsource, but speaking and talking you can't.
In the business perspective, how important is it to understand marketing side?
It's also a good question. I think I mostly can just speak about IT. This is the field I know a little bit more than other fields.
Yeah.
It's mostly a question on scaling sales as opposed to building the product. Of course, it interrelates with each other, but you can get infinite engineers. But the bottleneck most of the time is in the sales part, and the marketing comes maybe second to that. So first sales, then probably product, and then the third is marketing. You can't market a great IT product if the IT product doesn't make sense, but you can't not sell the IT product. So it always comes down to sale, number one skill, after maybe you build a great product. But again, marketing may be third.
And are you invested in crypto, and what are you invested in?
I used to have probably any coin on CoinMarketCap that it existed on certain weightings. I'm in this space since 2017. Now I honestly just, over the years, if I have to map my holdings, it's just going into the top 3 tokens. Bitcoin, Ethereum. Like me being from Switzerland, we have something called Crypto Valley. So most foundations are actually there. So I visited many of these companies. I talked to many of the people in the space in my old chapter. I kind of like the space, but most projects, they're not here for the long run, and I don't invest into stuff that's not here for the long run. So to answer your question, top 3 probably only. But if I have to put in money today, Bitcoin only.
And do you see yourself getting married, having kids, and settling down somewhere with your little family?
Well, you asked me 3 questions. So getting married, yes. Getting kids, yes. Settling down, TBD.
Okay. So your current situation, you are single?
Yes. So currently, I used to have long relationships, learned many things, but my current relationship status is single, yes.
What if your current girlfriend watching right now?
Then I would have a very high problem. No, but wholeheartedly, I also love to be in a relationship. It taught me many things of who I need to become and the problems I'm facing as an individual or as a partner. So I was highly appreciative of all the relationships, but sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. I think it's just normal in human beings.
Okay. Switzerland is the most talked about country in Nepal.
For divorce? Or for what reason?
No. For good reason. I mean, for good reason. Because Switzerland, like I mentioned, Switzerland has a bit of a similar landscape with our country. And our politician always, when they go for election, they're like, okay, I'm going to make our country like Switzerland in the next 5 years. That's how they go asking for votes.
Okay, so that's how they sell the election.
Yeah, that's how they sell the election. And then, they get a vote and nothing changes. So in that reason, and for a lot of many different reasons, Switzerland is pretty popular in Nepal. So I think I will have a lot of Nepalese audience watching this. So they would definitely find it very interesting. So if you want to say anything...
Should I do it in Swiss, German, or English?
Do it in English.
We first of all thank you for the pro words on my country. I certainly appreciate your kind support on my nation. I think it's a country where...
people love Switzerland. Like they're just seen in the picture now, maybe in movies or YouTube, but they love the country.
To me, it's kind of the other way around. So if I look at Nepal, for me, this is the beauty I would like to go see. I think for many people in the world, it's just the opposite polars. Switzerland is a beautiful country. If you have the chance to go, please drop me a DM or on TikTok, on YouTube, on Instagram, wherever. I'm happy to help you on a great journey. There's many different things, from lakes to mountains. You can also be going to the universities. You can network with people. The AI world really is also in Switzerland as well. So OpenAI, Anthropic, the companies are there. So if you're interested in getting a job in Switzerland, this is the time for you to network. anything else on Switzerland, I think I'm happy to answer the DM.
And you can mention where they can find you if anyone, want to connect to you or just follow you on what you do.
Yeah, sure. So we're active on YouTube at Cyril Imhof. So it's a new channel. As I mentioned, the other one they took down. So I'm back on YouTube, on TikTok at Cyril Imhof X. So I had to add a little X. There's a few fake accounts rolling around. So try not to go into that. But yeah, I'm usually active on TikTok and on YouTube. I have an Instagram as well, but there I don't really post too much these days. But yeah, feel free to connect if you have a question. Always happy to help.
And you also have a podcast going. What is it called?
We have a podcast called This Is the Year, because we believe this is the year to build AI, to get into AI, and anything regarding how to get started with artificial intelligence, get your first clients, build a pipeline of great products or services, or even make your first $1,000. I think that's what we usually teach. Sometimes it's a bit technical, but AI is a technical field, but we try to make it as simple as possible and always link the resources. Again, for people interested as an entrepreneur, as even software as a services founder, startup founder, or corporate person. This is what we try to build.
Okay, probably the last question, if people want to go visit Switzerland, which place you recommend, like where they should go?
That's another hard question.
There's a lot of beautiful places.
I think if you go in summer or if you go in winter, the route completely, it's like in Nepal. You probably have two different routes. If you go in summer, try to go to Zurich, try to go to Geneva, Lausanne, which is like the lake areas. If you can make it in August, there's a street parade, which is like a great party.
And I say, Interlaken.
Yeah, that's like where everybody goes.
That's more touristic.
I was just gonna say, don't go to Interlaken. Leave out Interlaken. No, jokes aside, it's a beautiful area as well. But Zermatt is probably a little bit better with the Matterhorn. Bern is nice, and if you go in winter, again, go to Zermatt, go to St. Moritz, go to the mountains, enjoy the snow. Although for you as Nepalese, it's like, what are these mini mountains?
I mean, it's different. It's beautiful there.
But you have like 8Ks. We have like...
we have big mountains.
I think we have 480 plus 4,000 summits. But that's about it. I think our highest peak is
What about activities like, people can do when they go there?
I mean, winter, skiing. In summer...
non-skill activities like
non-skill activities.
Skiing requires some skill.
I mean, hiking, honestly, like going into nature, on the lakes, you can do like stand-up paddle.
Is it in Switzerland, like you slide from the mountain in a
chair? Yeah. You can do sledge. I think it's called sledge or sliding, whatever. I don't know the word in English. Roller. I don't even know the word in German either. But like it's like these things you go down the mountains. Yes, you can do that. You can have a mountain bike, a trip. You can go with just mostly outdoor activities. But if you're into studying, again, go check out ETH. Go check out EPFL. These are the unis. They always have networking events, and that's where you most likely meet great people.
It was great to having you, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, good. We talked many times. We talked about doing it, but
I think we still missed out on a lot of things, but we definitely had an amazing conversation.
I will come back for a V2.
Time, we're gonna have much more interesting thing to talk about and much more new, updates and stuff.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think today we just scratched the surface, but again, reach out if you have questions. I'm happy to help. If you're into AI, tech, IT, from Nepal, anywhere in Europe, feel free to contact. Sounds good. All right. Thank you, man. Take care.
Take care.